I get asked the question, how did I want Naruto to end? Very frequently. And I've thought about it for a long time, and I've postulated what could be the best possible ending in my opinion. And I think I've finally come up with an answer. Here's the thing, I have no particular qualms with the way that Naruto ended, but I do think there could have been some minor improvements that really would have helped the story out. So this video is going to be kind of a departure from my usual videos. It's going to be less informational and more me tapping into personal preferences, but I hope you like it still. So for me, please like the video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And with no further ado, let's get into it. First off, I like to say, outside of the plot, the first thing I would have done with the war arc is cut about 200 episodes from it and made it, I don't know, a condensed 100 to 120-ish episodes. I think regardless of which way I go with how I wanted Naruto to end in this video, we can all agree that the war arc could have been shorter. But let's get to the story elements. So everything up to the point where Kabuto, Itachi, and Sasuke are fighting is fine, I guess. We're going to be establishing points beyond that high budget. So let's start there, the Kabuto, Itachi, and Sasuke fight. I'm fine with the way that the fight went down. A lot of people say that Sasuke should have fought Kabuto one-on-one. It would have been a good opportunity for us to finally see what his EMS abilities were. I'm even fine with Itachi using Izanami to end the fight, even though it did kind of prematurely end what could have been a longer, more interesting fight. But what I am upset with from that fight and what the takeaway was redeeming Kabuto. Yes, Kabuto has been a victim of Danzo and Orochimaru and been brainwashed by them to be a spy and a double agent and even a triple agent in some circumstances. But he has also been by far the most treacherous, traitorous, and treasonous man in the entirety of Naruto outside of possibly Orochimaru. And here's the thing, his motivations for being evil were just Orochimaru's, but copied and made worse. That's essentially what he did with his abilities. He took all of Orochimaru's scientific accomplishments, the Sound Force Kekkei Genkai, Taka's abilities, Jugo's ability to pull in Senjutsu chakra, Karin's ability to heal herself, all of that, and he applied it to himself. So now we have a man who has no motivations of his own and no powers of his own, who's been an absolute menace to society for 700 episodes. And yet we sent him down this kind of find yourself path with Izanami that he was able to snap out of, even though it's supposed to be infinite, just so he could come back to life and heal Sasuke after he got impaled through the heart by Madara. And here's the thing, I know you can't kill Kabuto because he's the holder of Edo Tensei, which means if you kill him, everybody will just get to hang out forever. He has to release the jutsu. Izanami is fine there, but don't have him snap out of Izanami. Have him wander for eternity in that cavern. And I know what you're saying. You're saying,
oh, Nick, but then how would have Sasuke got brought back to life?
I wouldn't have wrote Sasuke into the situation of having Madara stab him through the heart. Either have somebody else intervene in the fight and save Sasuke's life, or don't write him into the situation of fighting Madara that early on.
Okay then, Nick, how would they get back Orochimaru?
Yes, they needed Kabuto's flesh to act as a kind of host for Orochimaru's chakra and genetic material to grow him a pseudo new body. But it was Sasuke that knew that. Sasuke knew that they needed Orochimaru back so he could perform Edo Tensei and bring the 4 Hokage back to life to bolster their fighting forces. Kabuto was standing still. Izanami just puts you in a slump, slice off a part of his tail, take that chunk as the future body of Orochimaru, and get moving. And since we're talking about Kabuto and the fact that he couldn't be killed because he had to release Edo Tensei, how did Madara resist Edo Tensei being released? You don't just Uno reverse card Edo Tensei. You don't just,
matter of fact, think I will stay.
That's not how it works. I know Madara needs to stick around in order to continue being the bad guy, but there's a better way to do it. The better way would be the fact that, oh, I don't know, Obito was leading the Akatsuki, and the Akatsuki once had a member called Orochimaru in them. Do we think it would be the wildest idea of all time if Obito figured out how Orochimaru has been transferring his consciousness to new hosts? Probably not. Do we think it would be that crazy if Obito was able to convey that message to Madara? Probably not. Madara could start to crumble away as Edo Tensei has been released, and in a panic, try a Hail Mary to transfer his consciousness to the nearest shinobi. That shinobi could be someone powerful, or it could be an absolute nobody. Either way, it doesn't matter because Madara takes that body over. And this technique gives you 3 years in a body before that body begins to decompose and take its personality back. Madara now has a semi-permanent body. And I understand that this is an ass pull, but it's no more of an ass pull than Madara just saying no to Edo Tensei being released. Okay, let's move beyond this scene. I want to talk about something else a bit further down the line. How did Obito complete the 10 tails without Gyuki or Kurama in there? This man had the first 7 tailed beasts in there, and then he put a tentacle of Gyuki in there and the gourd containing the Gold and Silver brothers. Like, if that's all you needed, why even bother extracting the tailed beasts from the Jinchuriki? Just lop off parts of them in battle and throw those in the Geto statue.
Oh, but then the divine tree wouldn't have been as powerful.
He doesn't know that. That's an Otsutsuki's secret. He thought he was enacting infinite Tsukiyomi, and then that was the whole plan. Like, okay, I'll give you a pass for the Gold and Silver brothers because they're descendants of Hagoromo who ate their way out of Kurama and took a bunch of his chakra with them. So we can say the 2 of them equal 1 regular Jinchuriki. Why not? But Gyuki's tentacle? If I'm writing here, and let's be entirely clear, once again, I'm not writing, so if you disagree with this, I'm sorry. If I'm writing here, I have Gyuki get pulled out of Killer Bee, and I have Killer Bee die. Like, what does Killer Bee do after the war arc? What does he do in Boruto? Nothing. He adds no substance or flavor to the show. In fact, if we're being entirely real, by this point in time, Killer Bee's usefulness had pretty much all but expired. Like, yes, he shoots a tailed beast bomb from the 10 tails back into its mouth with his full Gyuki form, but that's about it. Naruto could do that in replacement of him. It would be a touching death considering Naruto and him had just become close friends that would give Naruto further motivation to win the war. I mean, let's be real here. The only important deaths we got in the war were Neji and Obito. And let's be real, the first of those deaths, important is a stretch. So now Naruto is the only Jinchuriki on the battlefield. Well, except for his father, who happens to also be a perfect 9 tails Jinchuriki for some reason. And actually, while we're talking about Minato, let's talk about Minato. Like, I'm sorry, was Minato not strong enough as a reincarnation that we had to tack on a perfect Jin cloak and perfect Sage mode to him? Like, let Minato's abilities breathe. Let his abilities speak for himself. He was a run-on-sight order ninja in the 3rd Great Shinobi World's War. There's no need to slap a Jin cloak on him like you can just pass him out like Oprah. But now the 10 tails exists. Let's talk about some 10 tails weirdness that happens in the war arc. Remember when Obito became the 10 tails Jinchuriki and he couldn't use Kamui because, well, then Madara becomes the 10 tailed Jinchuriki and he can use Kamui? And I know you can be like, oh, it's Madara, he's built different, but that is Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan ability. There should be nobody on Earth outside of possibly Kakashi who can use it better than him. But the plot needed Madara to get to the Kamui dimension to pull the Rinnegan out of Obito, so he yanked one out of Kakashi's eye and slapped it into his like he was changing light bulbs. And sure, let's say you want Kakashi hypothetically to lose his Sharingan. That's fine. You can even put Obito in the Kamui dimension and have Madara travel there to steal the Rinnegan. Just don't clearly write that Obito can't use his Kamui because he's the 10 tails Jinchuriki, and then have Madara do it like 4 chapters later. Since we're talking about Madara as the 10 tails Jinchuriki, let's talk about one of the most important fights in the entirety of Naruto. Madara versus Might Guy. The 8 Gates is something we had heard about in Naruto for hundreds of episodes. Might Guy had told us that he was stronger than Kakashi. Everything was building towards the moment when we finally got to see the 8th Gate revealed. I mean, we'd seen Might Guy in 7th Gate, and he was able to single-handedly take on Kisame, who was considered a tailless tailed beast. But the 8th Gate gives you this unprecedented amount of power that we had never even fathomed possible, and we got that. The fight between Madara and Night Guy is incredible. It's fantastic. I actually covered all of the abilities of the 8 Gates, including the 8th Gate, in one of my more recent videos that you can find right here. But my problem isn't with the fight itself, it's how the fight ends. Might Guy and Rock Lee, much more than Naruto, symbolize the story that Naruto is is trying to tell. The story that Naruto is trying to tell is essentially what a lot of shonen anime stories are trying to tell, and it's that you are more than the circumstance of your birth. Naruto, while he may be an orphan, is the son of the Hokage, one of the last standing Uzumakis, a Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, and Ashura Otsutsuki's reincarnate. The fact that he was going to become great was almost inevitable, but Might Guy and Rock Lee achieved everything they achieved in Naruto through hard work. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like Naruto didn't also work incredibly hard, but as nearly as hard as Might Guy or Rock Lee? No! So now we have this world-ending threat in Ten Tails Madara, and the person who symbolizes that you can achieve anything you want through hard work across from him. And he opens the 8th gate, giving his life essentially to make sure all of this hard work that he's built up his entire life makes it so his village is safe. He uses the evening elephant, and as he lines up to do Night Guy, it's the same thing. Madara gets kicked in half and Madara dies. There's no regeneration of his other half. No, Might Guy is given his life to protect the shinobi forces. But here's the thing, Might Guy also dies, because in my version of the war arc, there is no Sasuke and Naruto take a shrooms trip up to go meet Hagoromo and he slaps hacks onto them so they can conveniently beat Madara. No, that was dumb. Why did he decide then of all times to pull up? He was like,
Seems like there's a war going on down there. I should wait until the absolute last minute.
Instead, it is still standard Naruto and standard Sasuke kind of watching this fight from afar. And just like that, as Might Guy lays there dying, essentially a heap of ashes, the Shinobi Alliance comes together to celebrate their victory. And as Madara lays there dying, Black Zetsu slowly crawls to his body. And it's at this point that Black Zetsu takes over Ten Tails Madara and makes him Kaguya's vessel. This way, Might Guy's sacrifice is not lost. He killed Madara, but also this way, Black Zetsu doesn't have to backwards Rengoku Madara to make Kaguya's vessel. And as the Shinobi Alliance forces are celebrating in their win over Madara, and Sasuke and Naruto have been healed to their full capabilities once again, Kaguya rises from Madara's body. Naruto and Sasuke, now healed with the time that Might Guy bought them, rush towards Kaguya. Fight ensues once again. There's no time to grieve over Might Guy's loss or even understand how Madara has become an Otsutsuki. Quickly, it becomes very clear that Sasuke and Naruto, as they currently are, stand no chance against Kaguya. She easily deflects their attacks. She jumps between dimensions. They can't track her movement. Oh, by the way, I don't mind Naruto talk no jutsuing Obito back to the good side. It's fine with me, I guess, hypothetically. So Obito is in here helping them with the fight. And it's actually Obito and Kakashi and Sakura that make an opening for Naruto and Sasuke to close in with a Chidori and a Rasengan respectively against Kaguya to finally suppress her. That she pulls out 2 black rods of Truth Seeker orbs and slices off both of their arms simultaneously. And just like that, Naruto and Sasuke have lost their arms. They lay there, one arm bleeding out on the ground next to each other. Very similar to how the Valley of the End fight ends, except as Naruto and Sasuke lay there, Kakashi and Obito and Sakura try and close in to keep Kaguya from finishing them. And with the time that they create, they start to talk. They look at each other and they say, well, this looks like it's it. Naruto thanks Sasuke for coming back and says he missed him. And Sasuke apologizes for leaving and says he realizes the error of his ways. And just like that, since Naruto has forgave him and Sasuke has apologized, the circle of hate, also known as the curse of hatred that started with Indra and Ashura, closes. The cycle ends. But it's at that moment that their blood pools mix. And that's what summons Hagoromo. The blood of Indra and Ashura coming together creates Hagoromo. That's how Madara got his Rinnegan in the first place. And then they get their hacks. Hagoromo slaps an eyeball into Sasuke's face, slaps Sage of Six Pass Chakra into Naruto, but he doesn't heal them. They're still bleeding. This new revitalized Sasuke and Naruto stand up haggard, watching Obito and Kakashi and Sakura labor to keep Kaguya away from them. But she gets an open, and she shoots an Ash-all-killing bone at Sasuke. Obito then takes this opportunity to protect Sasuke. It's more symbolic than him protecting Naruto, because he turned his back on the Uchiha. He had a hand in the Uchiha massacre. He helped Sasuke's brother wipe out his clan. So in order to protect the last person from his clan, Obito gives his life for Sasuke. Incredible. Small problem though. Naruto and Sasuke still heavily injured, still losing a lot of blood. Sakura exhausted from her fight against Kaguya. Sasuke, Naruto are both on the brink of death after sealing Kaguya, and Sakura can only save one of them. With her 100 healings depleted, she only has enough chakra to perform the operation to close such a grievous wound on one of them. And it's at that moment that Sasuke tells Sakura to heal Naruto. And she has to finally address the feelings that she has for Sasuke and understand that Naruto presents more of a privilege and opportunity to the future than Sasuke does. And with tears in her eyes, she goes to heal Naruto, who fights at every step of the way, but Kakashi holds him down. And as Naruto starts to fade from consciousness, he looks over and sees Sasuke, gone, but smiling. For one of the first times in the history of Naruto. Naruto wakes up a week later in the hospital and wonders where Sasuke is, but he's gone. He gave his life for Naruto, showing, in fact, that he had been forgiven, showing, in fact, that the cycle had truly closed. And boom, the war arc's over, except there's still some other loose ends to tie up. Now, who does Sakura end up with? The answer to that question is actually very easy. Rock Lee. Oh, you know, the incredibly good guy who had a crush on Sakura the entirety of the show and had brought her flowers and made sure she was okay and checked up on her emotionally. You know that guy?
Oh, but now the Uchihas are gone.
So are the Senju. If Naruto and Sasuke are supposed to represent yin and yang, so are the Senju and the Uchiha. I understand Tsunade is still alive here, but she's in her 60s and Jiraiya's dead. She's not having kids. Also, if Rock Lee and Sakura had a child, it could open the 8 gates and have the Byakuya seal. So it could throw hands with Ishiki. And that's it. That's how I would have ended Naruto. Am I a little biased? Because I kind of want Sasuke dead, and maybe. But if you liked this rant, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Listen, I'm not saying I should be in the writer's room, but Kishimoto, email me. I'll give you my number.